Welcome back to a very special episode of the iDoctor UK podcast. We have come all the way down to Northampton to the Replace-Based HQ to come and have a word with Steve. Some of you may know him. He is the brains behind Replace-Based. It's been going for a few years now. They do just about every phone part that you can think of, as well as the tools and equipment to go alongside it. We've mentioned them before. I'll let him explain a lot better. So thanks for coming on, Steve.
It's all right.
Let's start from the beginning.
So the beginning, I'm sure loads of you guys already know who I am, what I do, and I've probably met everyone really. But for anyone that doesn't know, I started Replace-Based 2009, okay. So it's a while ago, making me feel a bit old.
That's
now.
around the time of the iPhone 6?
No, so when I started, it was the original iPhone. So
okay.
I mostly started. So when I really first started, it was iPods. So I was working full time fixing laptops.
Yep.
And I was trying to flip some money on the side. So I was buying like iPods off of eBay. I bought this one iPod, right, 30 quid, my first ever buy on eBay.
Yeah.
Dodgy headphone jack, right? So buy some headphone jacks off of eBay from China.
Yeah.
And I realised that you need to order like 3 or 4 of these parts, right, to get one working. So I wasted loads of money. I probably lost money on it, and I completely knackered the iPod, opening it up and cut myself to smithereens, because that's what happens with these old iPods. But one thing I took from it is that it's important to get extra parts because they're all crap. Fortunately, my next iPod I bought, it was just a software reinstall. I flipped it. I bought it for like £40-50 and I sold it for, I think it's like £300-400 at the time. Nice. I was like, this is wicked. So I just stocked up on everyone's junk, right? I was buying parts out of China in excess. So I was like, okay, well, I'll buy 5 headphone jacks for this one, test them as I go. All right, these 3 are faulty, send them back to China. I'll sell these ones that I don't need, and they're tested and working. And I was like, well, I was buying them for like 80 cents, and I'm selling them for like £5. So I was like, this is much easier than cutting my hands to ribbons on iPods. So that's how I started. It was like £30, and I kind of did that around full-time work for a couple of years, working lunch breaks, before work, after work, driving my wife mad. And then we sort of moved to the bedroom from sort of the lounge, and then we moved house got into a garage.
Yeah.
Then my wife started full time. I was still grinding at work, doing it around it. And then I jumped ship, and then we moved to a really little warehouse, and then we got the big warehouse. And as I was explaining earlier, like we've just moved now, we've relocated all of our logistics to PSA in London. So we've got this massive facility. We've got 18,000 parts there now.
Crazy.
It's crazy, and it all just started with that iPod, right?
Just one little iPod. It's funny you should mention iPods though, because there's a bit of a resurgence on iPods and like a bit of a modding thing going on at the minute. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on Reddit and Facebook the other day and saw these guys who were like modding the old iPods.
Do you know what I found in the move, right? I found, and this is a shameless plug because there's got to be some collectors out there. I found some iPod 5th gen, like the fat iPods, right? The back housing, you know, the back silver.
Yes.
Like they were like a chrome. They used to scratch. You used to take them out of the box and that's it. You just look at it and it's scratched and scuffed. I've got about 15 of them in absolutely pristine condition, pulled off of new iPods. And I found a bag of them, about 15. Those things have got to be worth a mint now to someone.
Definitely. I was messing about with an original iPhone, and it was a bit beat up. I got it really cheap, but it was beat up, and I wanted to put it on one of those frames, like opened up. But it didn't happen because I couldn't get any parts for it. So if you got any iPhone 1 parts kicking them out, then I'll definitely.
They were really tricky because they were like expensive and it didn't actually have much uptake. So when I started getting into iPhone parts a little bit further, so I was doing like Nintendo DS screens and all this stuff before iPhone. So I got into like the iPhone 3G era, and that's when things got really interesting because we were just selling loads of parts like the screens. So do you do many iPhone at that era?
I think I got into iPhone 4, so iPhone 4 sort of time. So I didn't do many 3G, 3GS.
Man, they all had their own problems. We used to sell loads of batteries, right? And I still remember there was 2 versions. There was 3 versions of the battery, but there was anyone that's listening to this from like back in the day, remember there was a Sony version and a Samsung version of the battery. And the part number is 6160433 and 6160435. And because we mostly dealt with consumers at the time, we didn't really have that many customers in the trade scene. It was all like eBay, we were selling them. And they're like, oh, I want the Sony version, I want the Samsung version. Or you send them the Samsung one, it looks a bit different to the Sony one. They're like, that's fake, that's counterfeit.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
it was a nightmare.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
separated it out, and there was this whole thing of like, we just used to sell these 2 versions of this battery in massive volume. And then they all had this weird problem. Like, I remember this one customer, he bought like 30 screens off of us. And it was like the biggest order we've ever had.
Yeah.
And the home buttons were built into the screens, but they had like 2 little contacts at the bottom.
Yeah.
So they'd only work if you fully installed it into the
Yeah,
phone,
yeah,
because it had to connect to the
Yes.
charge port. And they're like, oh, I've tested all your screens, your buttons don't work. And he was just plugging them at the top, pressing the button,
Yeah,
trying to make
testing
it
it,
work.
and it
Man,
wouldn't work,
like these sorts of, and then the 4 and 4S, we had this problem where customers would tell us, they're like, oh, the flex is too short on it. And do you remember when you used to feed it through the frame, you had this little split and it would get snagged on the frame. So customers would pull it and they'd break the connector off.
Yes.
So they'd either say, oh, the cable's too short, it's fake, it's rubbish, you're rubbish. Or they'd say, oh, this arrived with this flex ripped off. And you're like, no, man, you just snagged it. So it's always really difficult working in the direct-to-consumer field. I'm surprised we stuck it out, because I love dealing with direct-to-consumer now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Do you still get that sort of problem where, like, user damage?
We do, yeah, but we tend to do what we can to mitigate it. So we kind of, the difficult parts that really are trade only, we try and price them out for consumers to put them off.
Sense.
They shouldn't really have access to them.
Yeah.
But then saying that, there's some consumers, like, it's such a wide field. Like, some people, like, started their businesses, like, there's some customers I could name that buy from us daily, that started when I started, like, in their spare room.
Yeah.
And if I denied them access to those parts, they probably wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
That's it,
So there's a fine balance, but parts are getting better, tools are better, knowledge is better. The way that the phones are designed, bar maybe a few models, are getting better designed for repair.
100%.
So it's getting a bit easier for people to fix their kit.
Yeah, definitely. We were talking about that earlier, which it's exciting about, like, just seeing all these different techniques being used in the manufacturing to facilitate repair, like the iPhone 16 with the battery adhesive, what you remove by injecting voltage into it. So yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff happening and moving forwards.
Yeah,
in
I
repair.
mean, mostly due to like Lotex and the European requirements. Like everything's got to be repaired. It's easier to repair.
Yeah.
And I think manufacturers, a lot of them are taking it really seriously.
Yeah,
Like they're really thinking, okay, well, we've got to do this. Let's get on board with it. Let's make it easier to repair, more modular, open up parts and manuals and guides. And it works. It's less headache for them, because at the end of the day, if you buy a phone and you break it, and you can either fix it yourself, or the parts and tools are accessible to a local independent, and you can get it repaired for a lot cheaper than you'd think, you're going to have brand loyalty, because you're going to think, okay, well, if I do break this new phone, I'm going to get the same one again, because I know how easy it was to get fixed. You're not going to be in a situation like Samsung, where you got an S10, for example. Like, that's an old phone now. You break that screen, and you could probably buy 5 S10s for that price.
Yeah, I quoted someone yesterday, 185 quid for a screen on an S10.
It's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that will put a lot of people off. A lot of people, and like, I keep seeing on like Reddit and channels like where repairs discussed, like flips and folds. It's no point, is there? Like repair shops either turn it away. Like I guess you might turn it away because you think, well, it's a £400 phone, it's a £350 screen.
Yeah.
But a lot of shops just either turn them away because there's either little or no margin in the repair, or there's too much risk to reward on that repair.
It's a risk for a lot of people, I think, with those ones. But then, most cases, the consumer doesn't even go for it anyway, because they know how much the phone's roughly worth, and they know how much a £350, £400 repair. It's not worth it. It's better to. I think a lot of customers have the attitude, because they pay it monthly as well, that it's difficult to explain when a phone is £1,200 worth of phone, and your screen's going to cost you 300 quid. Yeah. But they think, it's not a £1,200 phone, it's a £50 a month phone. So explaining that to people can be odd for us. But yeah, it's got to improve, really. I think that's where we're going, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with this Lotex stuff. And
I see it. I've seen it for the last few years. Like when I first started, like there's no way you get an original part. You can get original parts at the back door of factories, or you get it from like job lots out the back of like service centres. But now, actually, I mean, we've got like Oppo, OnePlus, Motorola. We've got loads of OEMs, and our parent company as well. And we're starting to talk to more OEMs because they want to get parts out to people. So I kind of see it as, especially with the changes of what's going on with like Apple, and locking parts and things. They want to make parts more available and repair more friendly.
Yeah.
I honestly don't see a good day for aftermarket in 2-3 years. I think it's all going to be original.
It is. It is. When I started, so I started years and years ago, and everything was aftermarket. But then I went away from the industry, and then I restarted again 5 years ago, and I just decided to quit my job, and I started doing it. When we were doing that, I didn't even know you could buy genuine Samsung screens at that point. So every time we were pricing a job, it was based on an aftermarket part coming, and we were buying them in from China at that time.
Which were awful quality, I guess.
Yeah, they're just not very good quality.
Yeah.
They're just, they weren't very good. But now, I think the only parts that we don't use in the shop, what are not genuine, is Apple. So it's done like a full circle really into a full 180 from everything being aftermarket to just about everything being genuine parts now. There's only a few bits and bobs that we can't get that end up being aftermarket, and we turn it away because the quality of the aftermarket stuff is...
You tend to find that on things like Apple, the aftermarkets are actually really good quality in most cases.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I was showing you some of the new screens that we're working on, like the soft OLED stuff. Like, the quality is amazing, and it's not because it's just easier to make. It's because Apple has such a large amount of handsets in the field and such a demand.
It's demand,
the amount of money spent in R&D, factories, facilities, everything for like OnePlus and for like Xiaomi, like you just don't have that same investment. Like there's no factory that's going to open a production line up to do an aftermarket My 6 screen or something. It's always going to be a pull or a refurb or a reglass. It's going to be done by low skilled labour. It's going to be done in a back factory somewhere. You're never going to have that R&D that goes into these aftermarket parts for lower volume devices.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's why, like, you look at Samsung's a bit different because they're just expensive to. The demand's there for most models. They're just really difficult to manufacture. But things like Motorola, like you look at an aftermarket part and there's just no point. And by the time that comes to you anyway, it's probably cheap to get an OEM. You know you're going to get a good part and it's available.
It's just for a lot of people, I think it's finding them as well. So because if I wasn't in the industry, if I was looking for a part for my washing machine, for example, you go to eBay. And that's where you find these non-original parts. So I think that's what it comes down to with that. So, but yeah, I know for sure that people who watch our channel we get asked all the time, where do you get that part? Where do you get the part? And I think the UK and Europe, we're pretty blessed with how accessible genuine parts are, and obviously the US included. But then when you go to like Asia, maybe not Asia, India, Africa, and those countries, they can't get older parts. They really
it's tricky. I mean, I think the UK's got it wicked. I mean, obviously you got us as a replace base, but you're actually blessed because there's so many good vendors in the UK. Like, there's no like bad players in the mainstream, really, is there? Like, you know, if you go to one of the main sort of few vendors there are, it's such a competitive industry. You're going to get good parts, you're going to get good service. If there's a problem,
there is a lot
of
good parts around. And
I think it's when people go outside of that ecosystem of the trusted vendors and like going to eBay or Amazon or China or whatever, that's when you get the bad players, and that's when you're getting the cheaper parts and inconsistent service. Yeah,
100%. 100%. So obviously we talked about the past, we talked about some current stuff. What about the future? What can you tell us?
So we've got obviously the warehouse move that we did. So that's a piece of a bigger puzzle, really. So we've moved all of our logistics into our parent company in London. So we've got a central London facility in SW19 now. So some of the things in the short term that are coming, things like, so we're already doing later cut-off. I'll explain, we technically still say 4 o'clock. Because we're sort of still managing expectations and the workflow, making sure everything's working logistically. But we actually ship orders up to like 5, 6 o'clock. I've seen orders going out at like 5 to 6, like every day. It's really good to see. So we've got that later cut-off, which we'll do formally and announce formally soon. So we want to make sure that every customer's getting that. We don't miss anything. Everything's smooth. So we've got that. We've also working with a company to offer same day delivery within central London. So pretty much within the M25.
I saw that online. I meant to ask you about
Man,
that earlier.
it's crazy.
That's
So
really
it
good.
just so
Same-day
happens to
delivery.
work out that the cost of that service to have your part is about the same as a next day service. So like £5 or so.
I always find London so competitive for everything. Like it
It
just drives
is.
price down. Like I always think about takeaways, and everyone thinks food's expensive, but if you want a kebab, you get the cheapest kebab when you go to London, because there's that many kebab shops.
No, I found a wicked place in London when I was at a Circular Summit last couple of days, and we found like this just row of like street food under like this bridge, and it had a bar and it had just every kind of food, and we just hit every time we were hungry, just hitting that place up, man.
Where was it?
It was near like the embankment. I don't know exactly where it was, but yeah, we found it on the first night, and we just like come back here. Sort of, a few of us went out, like one of us had pizzas, fish and chips, Lebanese, like just had everything, man. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's good for food.
I'll digress now. Oh yeah, so the warehouse. So we've got everything. So with same day delivery, imagine that you got a customer come into the store. You need like I don't know an iPhone battery or something. 2 hours, boom, you got it, and it's not cost you an arm and a leg. Like if we same day something from London here, it costs like 100, 200 quid, and it's like a bit spotty. There's a guy on a bike that's going to come and say, "Oh, we've got your parcel, we'll come deliver it."
Yeah.
For the same price as what you'd pay for a next day. So
It's really good.
that covers a massive amount of our customer base in central London, which is really
Yeah.
good. And then we're obviously PSA, they sell loads of laptop spares, power spares, batteries, like computer spares, like RAM, SSD, all that sort of stuff is all going to be coming onto our site. So we've got the centralised logistics. So things that I'm really excited about is Lenovo. So all the Lenovo laptop parts and batteries, keyboards, screens, Acer, HP. It's all stuff that they're certified and accredited for. So it's like the best rates going for the parts. And then we've also got things like Dell laptop components. So pretty much opening that world up to the laptop scene and the PC guys. That's going to be really exciting.
That is exciting.
Because then especially like as a group, talking about OEMs and the way that I think the future is going in the industry, we've got Oppo, Motorola, OnePlus, we're onboarding Google. And then from our parent company, we've got Lenovo, we've got Acer, we've got HP, we've got HP Enterprises, we've got all these OEMs all under one roof. And we're just going to be bringing on more and really make those parts accessible. So soon we're going to have like 20,000 parts on the site.
Yeah.
And this,
To make it like a one-stop shop for all
pretty much
all parts.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good going,
one
especially
thing,
from an iPod.
The one thing that I don't want to like take away, I don't want to be that like one-stop shop for all you. I want to make sure that what we sell, we know it's checked, it's vetted, we know it, and I think that's the nice thing. So we know our phone parts inside out, we know what we sell, we know it really well, and PSA know what they sell really well. I don't know Adam from laptop screens really. I haven't fixed them for years, but they do. They have the expertise there. So although we're onboarding all this new product that may be strange and unfamiliar to a lot of our customers, they're still going to get that same level of quality and the same level of service and knowledge that they get from the rest of the parts that they buy.
That's it. We had a discussion about the grading of chassis earlier, didn't we?
Man, yeah, grading's fun.
Grading and that kind of thing. But I think we spoke about in the vlog that we did down at TechMax, and you got the iPhone 13 minis.
Yeah,
the pink
still
ones,
got them there. Yeah,
the 13 minis where they're all graded, and realistically, like those B grade ones, we'd always say like they're as good as A's. They're as good as A's. Not that I'm trying to downsell your I'm not telling people to buy the B's.
Like B's are better for us. They're easier to get.
Yeah,
right?
The B's are always as good as A's. So and that quality like rolls through into the Repair Pro screens. What you do.
Yeah.
I said to you earlier, like anybody who says that the other brands what are out there are better than them have definitely not used those Repair Pro, or they don't know what they're talking about, in my opinion. Just because they're a better screen, they're well made, they offer the same warranty as everywhere else.
This is where aftermarket should be. So when I look at like the aftermarket on parts, it's like that Repair Pro. There's a need for that because you can't get iPad even ASPs and IRPs can't fix iPads. So I'm fairly confident if you had an original Apple equivalent of that panel versus a Repair Pro, I think ours will still be better because ours has got adhesive, it's got everything that's designed to make the engineer's life a bit easier. So as well as being like an OEM grade part, it's there designed to make the tech's life easier, like the way it comes with the nipples and the little buttons and the gaskets. It's all there for someone. That's how aftermarket should be.
Yeah, for sure.
It should have a reason to exist, really.
Yeah,
as opposed to just, oh, we can save you 20% by selling you something that's not quite as good.
Yeah.
It should be a case of this is OEM grade. And like the used stuff, like the grading, I mean, it's as I was explaining earlier, it's really difficult for us because we sell to end users all the way through to insurance channels, and like an insurance channel A grade is different to what a consumer, which it shouldn't 100%. Be, because they're buying them as an A grade because they need it to give their customer as an A grade.
Yes.
There's a whole massive disparity of grading. Like when I was at this Circular Summit, there was people saying, oh, grading was a hot topic, as it was last year as well.
Yeah.
And people were saying, oh, well, we've got a B2B grading structure, we've got a consumer grading structure. So when they're buying and selling phones versus when they're doing it between B2B. And I just think, why is there two grading scales?
Yeah.
Like,
it's so hard to sort of standardise the industry, though, isn't it? Like,
really,
it's impossible. We like with the WISE stuff.
The WISE guys, so the WISE certification, CTIA, they've got grading standards, which they have like Assurant and Apple and Assurant, and they have all the big guys that have gone to them and said, we want to consolidate our grading, make sure it's all consistent. But then everyone has to pick that up for that to be valid. Otherwise, they're still going to go off. And I've been to facilities where they grade for different customers, and like this end of their facility, they've got dull lighting, like our lighting here, like the panel lighting. And it's dull down here, and they're grading this customer's handsets. Over here, the lights are brighter and there's more of them. And they're grading another customer's, and that could be an A and that could be an A. But actually, when you switch them over, it's a completely different world. And it is just what it is. It's not because they're doing anything dodgy. It's just the customer's grading requirements. It's just so vast. And at the end of the day, all of that's being done for that consumer. Like, if you're having your phone replaced under insurance, and you've had it for a year, you shouldn't expect to have a mint condition new phone. It should be like 100%. A like for like. It's going to be a couple of scratches on it. So it's really trying to make everyone happy. But at the moment, you've got too many people with their own business interests on grading. And
I think that's what it comes down to as well. It's like there's so much conflict of interests in those things, but there is an independent out there, isn't there? So look, there's WISE. I know we talked about it just now, but that's definitely something cool.
I'd recommend anyone that hasn't looked into sort of independent certification, look at WISE.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to push you to talk about it. It just it comes back around again. But they are like they're an independent non-profit company.
They are, yeah.
They don't have another agenda. Like, for example, if you were wanting to set up a grading system. Obviously, everybody's going to instantly think, okay, we know what this guy's up to.
Yeah.
He wants to make a grading system so that his is the gold standard. And that's what happens at the end of the day, whereas, like...
Well, you kind of got two sides to that coin. So WISE operate by CTIA, which is like the independent body. So they've basically got Apple and Samsung and Motorola and Assurant and all the big players in the industry. And they could get them around the table and say, what are the struggles? What needs to be fixed? What do we need to work together on? And I know that Apple and Samsung, like I've spoken to people that are, and especially on the Samsung side, that are like top of the tree at one point, and they're like, we don't talk to our counterparts at Apple. Like, these people only talk when they're in front of somebody.
Okay.
So there's like a mediation, and then from that comes WISE, which is the certification. So they've basically said to all the OEMs and everything, they said, okay, well, if people are going to fix all of your kit, what do you agree that needs to happen? Like, what do they have to do? So then they made this certification, and then it's like, okay, well, are you happy with that Samsung? Yeah, and in America, to be Samsung approved to do their version of IRP, which isn't sort of widespread rolled out here, in the States, you don't need to go through Samsung training, you just need WISE. And then Samsung is saying, you can fix our phones if you're WISE certified. So it really does help, and Apple now as well, all of their IRPs and ASPs in North America, if you are part of Apple's program, you can do WISE for free. Apple will pick up the tab and they will allow you to, they won't force you to, but they'll say you can do that because it's valid to what you're doing. So it's worth looking into. They are moving into the UK, and I think it's going to open a lot of doors for people that do it, and it's quick and easy, inexpensive, and it gives you that validation.
Yeah, I know we spoke about it earlier, but I'm definitely going to take another look into it, and it may be worth, like, if it's doable, we might be able to document it and just explain the benefits of it. So
I think that
we'll
would be
see about
worthwhile because it's
Yeah.
it's hard to get someone to start the process
yeah.
and to see the benefits of it and like is it really good because there's like a level one, so you got to do your level one, which I've done myself. It's easy. It's like how to handle customers' data, like how you book it in. Is it a software or hardware fault? Then you go on to your level 2 and then there's like level 3 program as well, and then you get store audited and certified. It all sounds really complicated and long, but it's not. It's quick and it's really cheap. It's a non-profit, so they're not squeezing you. You could get like one independent store with 2 technicians. You could probably get done for $2,000 or so, and you'd have that certification. It gives you that confidence to go to like local authorities, schools, and say, "Oh, we work to this certification standard. We're Y certified." You have to window on your sticky on their directory, along with like IRPs, Samsung centres. So it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, definitely something to look at. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Trying to think of some funny like Q&A stuff, like worst customers, like anything like that might make for. I'm trying to think of some interesting stories, really.
Yeah.
Most of them are like top secret.
I know, yeah. That's why I don't want to pry. I don't want to pry and press too much because I know like the conversations that we have are probably different to what you want in the public eye.
I think I've got everything out my system, really.
Yeah, good.
You'll find out what's secrets when we go for lunch.
Yeah, we'll do that over lunch. But we'll have to come back probably next year or so. Because I think I've been a few times. It's weird coming here and it's the ghost town.
Matt, it's crazy.
So
what we're doing right downstairs, whether or not this is a secret, I don't know. You could put my inner child on the podcast. I don't mind. But downstairs, you've seen it. Obviously, just empty racks.
Yeah.
So we're going to turn that into a little raceway, right, for the pallet trucks. So we've got the pallet trucks down there. So that's going to be a little pallet truck raceway.
I thought you were going to say wrestling ring. But
no. That would be cool, actually. Yeah. Then we've got the racks and throw people into it. I might do that.
Yeah, swanton bomb off the top.
And then up here, it's been noted that we've got the high roof, so we're going to turn it into like a little badminton court up here. So we've got a bit of badminton up here. And we're only in here for a few months, and then we moved into like managed office, so it get a bit boring then. But it's moving. It was really hard actually moving, especially because obviously our logistics were moving.
Yeah.
Customer service, like all of our staff are amazing, but our logistics guys, we had to tell them that they're being made redundant, and Matt, that was the hardest thing. I've gone through some really
guys
hard
who've been here a long time as well, wasn't
some
there?
of them 10 years. They're like some of my first employees. When I still don't have a clue what I'm doing. But when I really didn't have a clue what I was doing, these guys were like sticking through it and making stuff up with me as we go. I've got no business training. I don't know how to operate logistics. We just kind of made it up as we went and we did what worked for the customers to get it out. And it's really, really tough. And it's a reminder of that constantly. I remember sitting here in this room and having to get people in and tell them what the plans were and what we were doing. Oh man, it was brutal. It's worst.
Scary to think that like a company growing would cause that. Really, isn't it? It's a weird thing to look at it that way, and it's not something you expect. So
it's really weird because at the same time, like we're putting out the message, which rightfully, like we're doing the right thing. We're moving our logistics, we're improving our service, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And everyone I go to, congratulations on this, congratulations on expansion. But I just think back to like it's really like having to do that was like the hardest thing that I've had to do in business. It was horrific. I had a bottle of wine that night.
All right then. So last question then. If that was the hardest thing, we're going to flip it. What's the best thing that's happened in the business for you? Best business achievement, anything?
I think it sounds stupid. Probably my trailer, right? Because when we reached that road with my trailer, it was like our first OEM.
Okay, yeah.
So it was like suddenly the lights had gone on. So we've had our first OEM come in. So we've had someone who makes handsets come to us and say, look, we want you to sell parts. And it's like dream come true because although they've got quite a small market share, I love the brand and I love Motorola and love the stuff that they're doing, the devices that are coming out. But it's just like it's validation. We've got an OEM that wants to get parts in people's hands. Like
it's got real.
You go to all these trade shows and like the Circular Summit, and everyone's bashing the OEMs. Like, you're making devices too difficult to repair. You're making your parts too inaccessible, and it's like stop pointing that at like everyone because they're not.
Yeah.
Oppo, Motorola, OnePlus, they're coming along. They want their parts going. We're not pushing them to do it. They want that to be in people's hands. I think Motorola coming on board with us and putting trust in us to do that.
Yeah.
That was probably the best validation that we had, really.
Nice.
And that's obviously growing into other things as well, both with Motorola and Lenovo and other OEMs. it's what it's led into, and I think that's really pushing the industry that way. I think that's
100%.
where I saw that turning point.
Yeah.
So that's probably
100%.
the best thing. Yeah.
Nice. I'm trying to think if we've got any other
meant
quick
to say
fire
being on
questions.
this podcast.
Yeah.
Shit. Can you edit that bit out? Meeting you for the first time, actually, Ollie, back in the day when you turned up in your pickup truck. I remember.
Yeah, that was the one.
That was probably my highlight of my career,
brilliant.
actually, in general life.
Right, well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. I think that just wraps it up. I'm happy. Unless you wanted to ask me anything, I've got nothing to say. I'm the boring guy. I just tell everyone else's stories.
Yeah, man. I've got some questions.
Yeah,
right?
go on.
What is the most expensive mistake you've made in your shop?
Hiring Nathan.
I knew you were going to say that. Probably the most expensive mistake what I made in my shop. It's not really repair related. I'll do one repair related and then one non-repair related. Not paying my electricity bill in my old unit, and I didn't pay it. Right, I didn't pay it for about a year. Right. Being clever, and this is what I do, I think I'm clever. In my lease, in the contract, it said that the landlord was responsible for sending you the bill.
Yeah.
The landlord never sent me the bill. So I'm thinking, right, well, I'll pay the landlord for my electricity, but they've not sent me a bill. The lights are still on. But then the electricity company started chasing me, and then it was only to about $5,000 what I didn't have. So that was that one. That was an expensive mistake. And then probably breaking like a 13 Pro screen or something like that. 13 Pro Max screen. But this were before the 15 was out. So this were like, that was peak expensive. The 13 Pro Max screens were like infamously hard to get hold of, especially if you break somebody's stuff, you replace it like for like.
You got to, haven't you? Yeah.
But I'm just thinking back now, 12 Pro Max, definitely because I broke 3 in a row of customers because I was trying to get the original chip on the back of the screen.
I was going to ask, right, my next question was been like, how often do you have them days? Because I used to fix laptops and that, and there was some days, right, that you would just curse, and you go into work and you literally just break everything you touch, to the point where you just give something to someone, you're like, I can't touch it, I'm not touching it, I'll tell you how to do it, I'm going to
answer that one on Nathan's behalf, because, right, on Monday night, Alex, who's off camera, he broke his MacBook screen, so that, I offered to pay for that, he's paid for it, whatever. And then we come into work, Nathan's absolutely hammering Alex for breaking his laptop screen, giving him some right stick, and then he's popped a battery. What else? And then he broke an iPhone 11 screen, taking it off. And then, just to top it all off, as if he'd not had a bad enough day, a customer's gone to pay him cash, and he's paid, it was £190 repair, so it cost £190 for this iPad screen replacing. The guy's passed him £180, thinking he'd give him 200, so Nathan's give him a tenner back. And despite the bloke saying, I don't think I'll give you enough here, I owe you another £20. Nathan's like, no. He's just so the guy saved £20 and Nathan got a right ribbon following day.
Yeah, but I've seen you giving away repairs and all sorts, man.
I know.
Free
yes,
and easy.
Yes, I do give the freebies away, but I'm definitely answering that one on behalf of Nathan.
Well, I got more.
But yeah, I have bad days. Probably, I'd say it's cyclical. Maybe every 6 weeks you have a really bad day.
Oh, that's not too bad, man. That's not too bad. You just got to forecast it and take the day off, right?
Yeah, if I could do that, that'd be nice. But I find, like if you're training regular, like you do, you're running, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. If you keep in that mindset of training, trying to eat right, and if you keep in those routines of things, then it keeps you away from going into them bad days where you have crap days, dark days, whatever.
I suppose you've got to learn from these days as well. You got to,
exactly. Yeah.
You can't have too much of a good run.
Yeah. Exactly.
You've got to get booked.
Exactly.
Knock down a peg or two every so often.
100%.
Right, I've got a last question.
Yeah,
right?
go on.
What is the most disgusting thing that you have found on or in a phone? Like software, so I've seen something on Facebook about someone opening it to German spanking, right?
So, no.
But all the way flip it to like inside as well. So like you see a little
I can't even talk about one of them, but I'll answer it right off camera because it's fucking hilarious, right?
All right.
It involves a water damaged phone, and I'll explain how that one got water damaged. I've seen, like if you test a camera, it shows the last picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you'd see some grotty things there. So I've seen some penises, I've seen some tits on those. But the most disgusting thing, it's, I'm not that bothered about mucky stuff, mate. Like, in terms of dirt, but it smells what ruined me. So anytime you open up a wet toilet phone and you put it on the heat mat to dry it out, it just fills up the room with stench. And then somebody sent a phone once. Sending phones is a bit of a logistical problem for customers. Like, they always just panic. They either send them in the original box, they send them in an envelope with no protection, or they make their own protection for the phone. And I have had phones in like smelly socks. Smelly socks is the worst one. But there's like a lot of questionable stuff what comes in the post. But I've not had what I think you were thinking about. But yes, a pair of smelly socks were wrapping up a phone once. But apart from that, yeah, there's nothing what springs to mind.
Nice. I'll get that really grotty one off you.
Yeah, I'll tell you that one in a bit.
After lunch.
Yeah, I was forgetting it on camera then. But yeah, on the note about lunch, let's wrap it up there because I'm getting hungry. I've not had breakfast. And,
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll go and get some food.
Let's do it. Always
Appreciate
a
it,
pleasure.
man. Cheers, dude. See you later.